Hello. So I know that this topic's probably going to be a little bit of like conspiracy theory, but I wanted to kind of go over it anyway. The science behind it intrigues me. So I kind of wanted to go over what an EMP is and how it can affect us if an EMP strike were to ever happen. So first off, an EMP or electromagnetic pulse is usually a nuclear missile that's detonated high into the very high into the atmosphere where it we don't have the nuclear fallout like what happened in Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island, but it can take out a lot of things. So with that being said, it's an EMP. We also have CMEs, which are from the sun, which are coronal mass events of some kind. I can't really explain that one as much, but it's basically the same sort. It can cause the same kind of stuff. So as far as an EMP, attempting to destroy our lines of communication could cripple early warning systems and continued communication for first responders, for the military, and other key players to our daily survival and safety. With transportation at a standstill, if an EMP were to happen, first responders would be hampered and civilians would be prevented from fleeing to safety or banding together. A halt in distribution, which we kind of saw a little bit during the pandemic, but this would be EMP related, would leave millions without electricity, food, and many other important resources. So it's one of the most commonly mentioned weapons in the modern era, even though a lot of people still view it as an incredibly unlikely event. And the severity of what we would feel as a nation, depending on where an EMP were to be detonated, could make a difference as well. But it's no secret that certain militaries, like the Chinese and the US military, among others, recognize its usefulness and value as a weapon, whether as a pre invasion or an attrition tactic. Um, so, if a country decided to launch and detonate an EMP type bomb, what would the primary targets be? Um, so, we know objects with microprocessors would be susceptible, um, but where would a hostile nation who's looking to detonate an EMP of some kind look to cause the most destructive effects? A foreign country would likely seek to cripple communication, transportation, and distribution. These three facets include the military installations, substations, electric substations, natural gas stations, fiber amplification sites, cell service sites, data centers, and nuclear power plants. So those are usually going to be the three main areas: communication, transportation, and distribution, as far as what they're going to try to cripple or stop. So that basically means you wouldn't be able to use your cell phone, you wouldn't be able to use your house phone, you wouldn't be able to drive somewhere, you wouldn't be able to get gas or electricity coming in, things like that. So that is um, kind of where they would target if we were to have an EMP strike due to a hostile situation. Now let's go over what gets destroyed during an EMP. We've kind of gone over what they would try to cripple, so this is kind of an expansion on that. So an electromagnetic pulse or EMP could potentially damage or destroy a wide range of electronic devices and systems. So your cell phone would be trash. Computers would be trash. TVs, they would probably be trash too. Even some really new vehicles could possibly also be paperweights at that point, because we have so much in the way of electronics in our vehicles and our house, all of our smart home systems and everything like that. They would basically all be rendered worthless at that point if the EMP were to be a worst case scenario. Um, so the severity of damage does depend on the strength of the EMP and the vulnerability of the affected devices. I know we've had some presidents in the past who are looking to um, kind of future proof our grid, or um, try to make it stronger. But here are some examples of what can be impacted. So going back to the power grid, the electrical infrastructure, including transformers, power lines, and distribution systems, are susceptible to damage by an EMP, and that can lead to widespread power outages and disruption of essential services. So we sit there and we think, oh, essential services, but think about hospitals and people on oxygen, that or any sort of medical device that has to be plugged into the wall, or even the medical device itself. I mean, it was just saying cell phones would be rendered worthless because of the electronics in them. If the medical device is very electronically advanced, then that could be another thing. Communication systems. They can disrupt or disable various communication systems, including your landline phone, cell phones, radios, satellite communication, and more. So that would impact our communication capabilities during and after an EMP type event. So communication with family to make sure that they're okay and all could be kind of impossible unless you know how to use smoke signals, maybe. Computers and data storage, I just said that. Um, EMPs can damage or destroy computers, servers, laptops, and other electronic devices. That can result in data loss, system failures, and the inability to access critical information. As we know, a lot of our power grids these days are ran off computers to monitor usage and all that. That data would probably be lost. Even your external hard drives, like the one I have here, it's the external hard drive. These have a little bit of some sort of battery in them that could cause an EMP, could cause this to be rendered useless, even though we back up our data all the time. Transportation systems, vehicles with electronic components, including cars, trucks, airplanes, and trains. I know we've seen a lot of apocalyptic movies where the airplanes are falling out of the sky. That could actually happen. They don't just fall. Usually, the pilot will glide it down like a glider, hopefully. But yeah, they would lose their electronics, and that can lead to engine failures, control system malfunctions, disruption in transportation networks. So you think of all those big rigs that get us around, or trains that carry heavy loads from one half of the world of the country to the other, or one half of the world to the other. Those would all basically be potentially be rendered useless, and in which case we wouldn't be able to get supplies to even start fixing the grid, or fixing communications, or fixing other things, because we wouldn't be able to have the transportation there to get us the parts we need. Medical equipment, I said that already. EMPs can impact medical devices and equipment that rely on electronic components, such as ventilators, monitors, and life support systems. It can jeopardize patient care and treatment during these kinds of during an EMP emergency, especially. We have the same sort of potential with power outages in any kind of normal stance, but usually the hospitals have a backup generator of some kind. However, in an EMP event, you're looking at much more long-term problems. The generators, if they're electronically accessed or electronically ran, they might be rendered useless. But how long is a generator going to run before it goes down again? Going back to thinking like The Walking Dead, and even though that's zombie related, but that kind of post-apocalyptic sort of thing. As sensationalized as those movies are, they're not necessarily in some aspects too far off from the truth. And then, of course, finally, banking and financial systems. EMPs can disrupt electronic banking systems, ATMs, financial transaction networks. So it would hinder your access to your funds, making transactions, and even economic activities of some kind. So they always say during a hurricane to make sure you've got some cash on hand. So this is one of the other sort of disasters, so to speak, that could happen, where having cash on hand might be the right option. So it's kind of good to always have some cash on hand. Um, during It's important to note that the specific vulnerabilities and impacts of an EMP can vary depending on the nature of the event, the proximity to the source of the EMP pulse, and the resilience of the affected systems. So that's just a little bit about what an EMP is, how it can affect us. Again, CMEs from the sun can do the same sort of thing, but usually not to the same degree or severity if we were to see a militant type EMP strike. So I know this is a little off the norm and it's very much conspiracy theory type thing, but it does kind of get your mind to be a little bit aware of the potential problems that could ever happen and the importance of being prepared. I mean, we prepare for hurricanes, we prepare for power outages, we prepare for vacations. Why wouldn't we prepare for potential worst case scenarios? So I hope this helps, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.